And now to the tech world, which came to a halt yesterday for the announcement of a new iPhone. And one small addition to the home button is stealing the headlines. Take a look.
The sensor uses advanced capacitive touch to take, in essence, a high-resolution image of your fingerprint from the subepidermal layers of your skin. It then intelligently analyzes this information with a remarkable degree of detail and precision. It categorizes your print by one of three basic types: arch, loop, or whorl. It maps individual details in the ridges that are smaller than the human eye can see, and even inspects minor variations in ridge direction caused by pores and edge structures. Touch ID uses all this to provide the most accurate match and a very high level of security.
That's really awesome. Apple's new iPhone 5S is most notable for one thing: a fingerprint scanner that unlocks the device. This phone will likely mark the largest consumer adoption of biometric security yet, and some are speculating it could lead to the end of passwords altogether. Here to discuss this excitement and the privacy threats surrounding fingerprint scanning is Brian Funk. He's the founding member of the Post New Tech blog, The Switch, and that's all the rage around here. Brian, tell me about what was announced yesterday.
Well, obviously, not a whole lot of it was a surprise. A lot of rumors that had leaked out in the media before the actual event turned out to be true. There was the iPhone 5C, which is Apple's cheaper version of the new iPhone.
And this will be like, what, $99 or something?
On contract, right. And then there was also the iPhone 5S, which contains the fingerprint scanner that we're talking about today.
And so is there, when you look at these two options, the 5C, the color one, $99, and then the 5S one, is there a reason for me to upgrade from my 5?
Well, I would say that whether you decide to upgrade has more to do with what phone you currently have,
right,
as opposed to what the specs are of the new products. I would say if you're rocking a 4 or a 4S, it might be
You're
time.
You're behind the time. It's time to...
But it's obviously if you're on a 5, I'm using a 5 right now. I really don't have any plans to upgrade at the moment.
I feel what's going to lure me into getting this upgrade is the fingerprint scanning technology. Why did Apple feel like they wanted to do that? Was it to get somebody like me to buy it? What's their reasoning?
Well, I think one of the reasons that Apple is so interested in fingerprint technology is that passwords have become less and less secure. Every week you hear a story about how someone has set their password to be 12345 or password or something that's just very not. That's easy to remember, but
right,
not ultimately very secure. And so the idea behind fingerprint technology is it's very easy to remember your fingerprint because it's with you all the time, but it's also very secure.
It's also very secure, but people wonder about how secure it would be and sort of the storage of it. Is it going to be free for everybody to sort of tap into? People are thinking about the NSA, and what about the sort of storage and security issues around it?
Right, that's one of the paradoxical things about fingerprints is that while on the one hand they're very good at protecting your device,
yeah,
there are all sorts of vulnerabilities that are associated with fingerprint technology that could lead to hacking or other negative outcomes.
Right. A, because our fingerprints are everywhere. B, I think I read somewhere that maybe you can get like a rubber finger and maybe sort of get somebody's fingerprint and you would have problems with that.
Well, experts seem to think that depending on the type of fingerprint scanner you're using, being able to spoof a fingerprint is more or less difficult.
Right.
It sounds from the technology that Apple's fingerprint technology is reasonably good, and they have good reasons to invest in that technology if they're planning to market to business consumers, for instance.
And it seems, at least for now, it's a very narrow application of this fingerprint technology, right? It's about iTunes and getting access to your phone. It's not about iCloud or other applications at this point.
That's right. Apple doesn't store the fingerprint on anything other than the phone itself. It doesn't, again, create a central repository where all fingerprints are stored. Some people were thinking that if Apple had gone down that route, it would have been vulnerable to government subpoenas, and that there would be questions about whether or not Apple would be forced to hand over your fingerprint if a court ordered that. But now it looks as though that's not really going to be a problem.
Talking to Brian Fung about the new iPhone, which I think is going to be in stores, is it next week?
Yeah, later, a little bit later this month.
I should probably get in line soon. Do you feel like this is going to be the end of passwords with this new technology? I mean, is that ultimately what's going to happen? iPhone has completely transformed, or Apple has completely transformed the way we listen to music, and certainly the way we use and talk on the phone. So is this the sort of next iteration of Apple transforming?
Well, I think it's another step along the path. I think it'll be a long time before the password is completely eliminated, especially as people start to learn more about how to improve their password security. Passwords still have a very important place in computer and IT security. So that's not really going away anytime soon. What might happen is people beginning to substitute or use fingerprint technology or biometric information to supplement their passwords.
Okay, so I would the fingerprint and then have whatever my password is, 1, 2, 3, 4. Is it your sense, I mean, just sort of looking at this from a tech standpoint, do you feel like this is like Siri? Because Siri came out and it's on my phone here. I rarely use it. I think there was a sense that it was going to transform the way all phones, but it seems to have, do people actually really use it a lot, Siri? And is it your sense that people would use this fingerprint technology?
Well, I think even if fingerprint scanning doesn't take off in the iPhone, I think it still might prompt other manufacturers and other cell phone companies to start thinking about including biometric information or biometric scanners on their devices as well. And that could have potentially, industry-wide ramifications, right? If fingerprints become used to, for example, right now it's to give you access to the iTunes store. Well, the same could happen to Google's Play Store,
right.
Or if individual apps get access to the fingerprint scanner, there are all sorts of applications that I'm sure would love to get their hands on that technology and use it for their own purposes. And all of those applications would then open themselves up to potential hacking vulnerabilities, right? If they're storing or if they have access to the fingerprint scanner, then as Michael Hayden, the former NSA director, said recently, every additional app is another opportunity to attack a phone.
Right. And that's the sort of nightmare scenario that Apple wants to avoid, hackers being able to figure out how to, hack into this technology. That would be a nightmare.
Right, and at this point, there's really no other way to figure out whether or not that's going to happen other than to try. So, Apple seems to be sort of taking one for the team and sort of going out there on its own.
Is it your sense that these recent sort of iterations of the iPhone, they're sort of half measures, half steps, and then we should wait until what happens with the 6?
I think generally it's been pretty commonly held that the S series of the iPhones, the 4S and the 5S, have generally been incremental steps up, and Apple generally reserves the bigger innovations for the full next sort of level up. But I wouldn't necessarily say that this is an insignificant technology. I think as we've sort of discussed, there's a lot of potential ramifications of including fingerprint scanning that we haven't even dreamed of yet.
Right. Apart from the iPhone, in terms of whatever credit card use or, all sorts of things, you imagine this could be the wave of the future, and leave it to Apple to create the future right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Brian. Take care. And that'll do it for us today. Thank you to Anu Begwati, Brandon Friedman, and Brian Fung for being here. Thank you for watching. Find us on Twitter @Background and use that hashtag #postback. We'll see you right back here tomorrow.